Hello everyone, my name is Anita Ford and I'm the Memory Connections Project Coordinator for Senior Services in Forsyth County, North Carolina. Memory Connections is a grant-funded project that provides resources for people living with dementia and their caregivers. Special emphasis is placed on people who live alone, high-risk populations, which are the African American and Hispanic population, and also being a source of support for caregivers. The Memory Connections video that you're about to see is called You Are Not Alone, Finding Your Path Through Dementia. It contains the stories of 4 caregivers who wanted to share their experiences and offer hope to others who are in the midst of their own dementia journey. We hope the video will be a source of encouragement and comfort.
Seeing her go from this vibrant, smart, intelligent, advocate, vocal, strong woman to almost childlike, it's just been gut-wrenching, just heartbreaking.
I'm Dr. Ed Shaw. I'm a duly trained physician and mental health counselor. I spent the first part of my career practicing oncology. Specifically, I treated adults and kids with brain tumors. And then my wife, now my late wife, developed early onset Alzheimer's disease. It compelled a career change. I got my training as a licensed mental health counselor and then started a support program for families on the dementia journey.
Shirley is my aunt. Shirley is a retired EKG technician for which she worked in New York City for over 30 years. She has never had children, so she has basically loved on all of her nieces and nephews throughout the years. Shirley loves going to church. Shirley loves family gatherings. She loves music. Shirley loves dancing, most of all.
So Steve grew up in Asheboro, the son of a Quaker minister, the youngest child. He chose to join the Air Force. And at that time, they were needing pilots. Then he got sent to Vietnam. He actually was there only 7 months because the peace treaty was signed while he was there, and so he got to come home earlier than expected, which was a blessing for us, of course, and his family. Steve is one of those guys who has just an outgoing personality. He's just friendly, loves people, loves being active, very skilled in woodworking, in music. He loves music, can do just about anything, or could, before this disease.
My mom, Betty, is originally from Monroe, Louisiana, and she migrated to Topeka, Kansas due to my dad being in the Air Force. During her time there, she was a city councilwoman for many years, also served as a deputy mayor. She's always been an advocate for everyone. During that time, she's had a park named after her. They're in the process now of naming a street after her. She's always been that take charge person.
So Alzheimer's disease has a classic triad of symptoms. So we say that memory loss is the first symptom of Alzheimer's, and it's usually the worst symptom of Alzheimer's disease. The next common symptom is something called executive function problems. Executive function is our ability to plan, problem solve, and multitask. So things that we do that require those sorts of skills, like driving or cooking from a recipe or doing our finances. Those are the sorts of things affected when the executive function isn't working properly. Then the third part of the triad is difficulty with spatial balance or spatial function. And that's why people with dementia often will have falls, because their spatial balance is off. We do have some slowing down of our thought processes as we get older, and we find it more difficult to multitask as we get older. It's easier to focus on one thing at a time. But if we start struggling with our day-to-day activities like driving or organizing our medications, paying our bills, making a shopping list, even doing grocery shopping, when we start needing assistance with those things, or we become dependent on others for those things, that's the difference between normal aging when we do them independently versus needing help or needing others to do them for us where we become dependent. That would not be normal for cognitive aging.
About 8-9 years ago, Shirley started, with her living in the city for so long, Shirley would usually walk to shop or take transit to shop. So when she moved back home after she retired, she did the same thing. So with her going to shop, sometimes Shirley would come home without her bags or without things that she'd purchased. Also, things that we noticed would be Shirley would start to repeat things. She would repeat the same phrases or the same stories over and over again. She started forgetting to take her medication. She started forgetting to eat. So that's when I first noticed she was making changes.
Well, it was after he retired in 2010 from flying. He began to have trouble remembering dates and what time it was and what day of the week it was. He had never been really good at remembering people's names, for instance, or, the date, people's birthdays, those kinds of things. So it wasn't too concerning at first.
We were involved in a car accident in 2018. And during that time, when we had the accident, she had hit her head on the passenger side window. And so we went to the hospital, and during the course of that weekend, she experienced 6 strokes that weekend, and the last one took her speech. And when she was released, I noticed she was really confused, couldn't tell the difference between a napkin and a fork, a plate and a glass. And so it just progressively got worse. And so I had to make a few adjustments, but I didn't know how or what adjustments to make. And so we just kind of were winging it until we could come up with a solution.
Ironically, I worked in the field of brain cancer and did research on cognitive function. So one day, my late wife, Rebecca, who was herself a very educated, very intelligent woman with no family history of Alzheimer's disease, she looked at me and she said, "I can't remember things anymore." We were sitting and having coffee one day, and we were reading an old print magazine that we used to subscribe to. She says, "I've read this article 3 times and I can't remember a single thing." That is not part of normal cognitive aging for a 53-year-old. And something inside of me knew at that time that she probably was on the Alzheimer's journey.
When I first noticed that we needed to seek help for her was where Shirley lived. She was kind of surrounded by family. And I started getting reports of, I saw Shirley outside at 5 o'clock this morning sweeping her driveway or sweeping her porch, or even, she was even out there sometimes, in bad weather. So when those things started happening, that's when we really knew we needed to seek for help.
He was in the choir at our church that we'd gone to for a number of years, and almost ever since we've lived here. And he got lost coming home from the church one night. And it's only like 2 turns between here and there. So that was really scary. I had to jump in the car, and it was pouring rain. Also had to go out and try to find him, and I called a couple of friends who lived in the area, and one of the guys came out, and we found him down a little dirt road. Really became more concerned after that, and so it wasn't long until he had to give up driving.
We were living in an apartment on the 2nd floor, and she began wandering off and going to the parking lot, getting in other people's vehicles, and I realized I needed outside help and assistance because I didn't know what to do. This was my first time experiencing any type of behavior from her, negative behavior from her, and I had reached out to the Department of Social Services and was able to get some information and some assistance through them to kind of guide me.
So after she had a formal diagnosis, as I mentioned, it compelled for me a career change because at the time my daughters were 20, 22, and 24, so they were young women, and we were on this journey as a family together, and there was no help for us. So the personal experience of having a wife with Alzheimer's disease has dramatically affected how I think about caring for others, including caring for her. You know, most people that we diagnose with dementia now, we diagnose at a very early stage. They either have what's called mild cognitive impairment, which is almost like a pre-Alzheimer's diagnosis. They're having some cognitive issues. Maybe their cognitive testing shows some problems relative to others who have their level of education and age, but they're still functioning pretty normally. For someone like that who's still driving, maybe they're still working, even though they're having some cognitive challenges, the idea of having a caregiver doesn't sit so well for them. What they want is a care partner, somebody who's going to help them in those activities that maybe they're having struggles with. Even with someone who progresses in their dementia, they're maybe in the early or middle stage. You know, the general principle I always say is to do things with them, not for them. You know, and that's the notion of care partner. So I think that to me is a really important thing. I think the next thing that you can do as a care partner is to educate yourself about the disease. To know what's coming makes what's coming a lot less scary. You know, we naturally fear the unknown, but if it's not unknown to you, you'll be less afraid of it.
The advice that I would give to someone would be, first of all, don't try to do it alone, because caregiving is, it's pretty hard. And, dealing and caring for someone with dementia, it's not easy. It takes, like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It almost takes a village to care for someone with dementia.
It's amazing when you start talking about it, how many people know someone who has memory loss, and just finding out what their experiences were and how they got help. See what resources are available through, for instance, we have resources through the VA, talking to caregivers, support groups, and those kinds of things. And honestly, we've already started looking at some memory care centers, so when we get to that point, we'll know what to do and where to go.
For anyone that's caring for a loved one with dementia, utilize family. Utilize your family, utilize your friends. Make that alone time for you and that loved one with dementia, so that they can still be independent and still function. With my mom, she gets her nails done, she gets her hair done, And I leave her there so she can still have that independence and not feel as though she's a burden.
We're very fortunate in Winston-Salem because we have a lot of phenomenal resources. So of course, Senior Services is an amazing organization. I think of the things we do here at Senior Services that are most helpful, we have a helpline so you can call in. It doesn't matter what your question is or what the need is. You can find someone who's an expert in dementia diagnosis and care that can answer questions, that can get you to the right place or find you the right resource. We're fortunate in the community to have a National Institute of Aging designated Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. There's about 35 of these across the country. The Atrium Health Wake Forest Baptist is one of the NIA designated Alzheimer's Research Centers. We have the Memory Counseling Program, which is a mental health resource for people on the dementia journey, the care partners, the family care partners, and also the person with the dementia if they were to need counseling. And then we have the clinical trials program, which is one of the big benefits of being an Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, where the newest therapies are being tested, and people, especially early on in the diagnosis, might get access to the next drug that could be helpful or curative or preventative for this disease. Novant Health also has a memory care program, so both of our big medical centers in town have access. We have the Shepherd Center, which is a faith-based program that helps seniors, including seniors who are on the dementia journey, in a number of different ways.
The advice I would give to someone who is caring for a loved one with dementia: be patient. Be very patient, and no 2 days are the same. What they did yesterday and remembered everything may not be the same today. So that's when you have to just stop and just count to 10 if you have to, but be very patient.
Recently, I've learned to start taking care of me. I actually had to seek counseling and talk to a therapist because I felt like, it was hard. Maybe I wasn't doing a great job at it. I also utilize every avenue of respite that I can get. If I can take a break, I take it.
So I take care of myself by going for a walk at Tanglewood almost every day with Ollie. Steve goes to bed fairly early, like 9 o'clock or so I have an hour or two that I can read or do a Bible study or watch TV, those kinds of relaxing things.
We spend a lot of time outside. She loves to look back in the photo album and see where and who she is, and that brings so many smiles to her face to know that she was a homecoming queen and to know that she's a mother of 3. And so we're constantly going through pictures from the past because her memory back then is excellent. It's just her short term.
Who is that? Who is that?
There's a quote that says, your story will heal you and it will heal someone else. And there's something unique about the environment of being with a group of like others who are on the same journey as you. Yes, I think one-on-one sharing is really important, but being in a group environment offers a different kind of support and different kind of opportunity where, yes, you can tell your story to others who are there, but you also become an expert yourself. You hear someone else's story and you can offer them advice from your journey. And when you can do that, that's very healing just in and of itself.
I would encourage whomever, is taking care of someone with dementia to utilize their resources. Again, if it's friends, if it's family, if it's church, definitely seek out the Williams Adult Day Center because they have truly been a godsend to us.
I would just encourage them to seek help through friends or family or support groups, daycare centers, and try to keep the routine as calm and as steady as it can be, so that there aren't surprises during the day. Ask for help when you need it. Ask friends for help because they're usually willing, they just don't know what to do.
One of the things as I look back, it's been 6 years since Rebecca passed away, is that we did maintain a love bond and even a level of emotional intimacy all the way till her last day.
I guess the fact that we've had almost 53 years of marriage together and knowing how he has taken care of me and my family all those years, our family all those years, that's just not something you let go of.
Just rest now and you'll figure it out. Don't let it cast a shadow on all that you do. 'Cause you talk too much and you try to plan too much. Just wait. Love comes when you need it to. Don't you know that love will come when you need it
If you'd like more information about senior services or Memory Connections, please call us at 336-721-6966 or visit our website at seniorservicesinc.org.